It's Tuesday afternoon, evening, and you know what that means. It's time for Randomity with the Random Christian Show. Today, Christian welcomes comic book illustrator and artist Tom Rasch. We also welcome our raffle winner, Drew Garrett. We are brought to you by Neil Getzlow's book, Unmasked, Conquering Sexual Sin and Walking in Victory. Order your copy now at neilgetzlow.com. Use the code RANDOM for a 10% discount. Also brought to you by Consolidated Skateboards, quality skateboarding decks, shoes, shirts, and blankets on the web at consolidatedskateboards.com. Intro music provided by the Dead Campers. Their latest album, Savage, is out now. Check them out at deadcampers.com. Plus, random questions of insanity. With us, as always, is the voice in our heads, Matt. My name is Andy, and here's your host, a man so random. Well, he's not really that random. He's just drawn that way. Christian Random.
Yes, I am, and I'm horribly drawn. But well, you know, they always say the drawing adds at least good 250 some odd pounds. So,
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm ready for my Big Mac. Welcome, Andrew. How are you, my friend?
Good. How are you?
Nice to see you, sir. How's the world in Oregon?
Oregon as well. It's raining as it normally does in Oregon, but our heater went out.
But
luckily,
you're in Oregon.
Luckily, this is the warmest week we've had in a year, so I wouldn't have been running the heater anyway. So
yeah, dude, it's 74 degrees outside here in Kansas City.
It's gonna be 12 tomorrow, right?
Well, no, that'll be next week. Yeah,
right.
it'll be 33 or something. But
okay,
right now, hey,
that's good. Hey.
Yeah, dude, I was the past 2 days been driving with my windows down, just going, oh my god,
nice.
And then yeah, it falls apart after that.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, beautiful day. And enjoyed my visit to the ER. That was always fun.
Did they give you the bionic implants?
No, but they gave me some bionic pills.
Oh,
and
those are even better.
I'm extra happy today. And they're like, they're called Lodine, and I'm like, okay, so that sounds like an off-brand of codeine. They're like, you would think that, but it's just a non-narcotic version, and I'm like, okay. And
insurance not good enough to get the narcotic version?
Nope.
Come on.
No, at that point they just went.
Yeah, I hate it when the tuba guy walks through the hospital. That's just you know the news isn't gonna be good.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got your test results. Like, oh, well, I see the Grim Reaper behind you, so I'll just be saying my dues and walking away from here. Yes. Yeah. My soundboard is not as reactive as I want it to be. I really hit the sensitivity button there. But yeah, so we will actually find out tomorrow prognosis on the hip thing.
Okay.
Because I'm actually walking with a cane at this point.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah. It's yeah. Anyway. And
yeah.
All right. But well, anyway, other than that, I feel good. And
well, that's good.
Love. Too sexy for my love.
Yeah, that's right. I feel too sexy. Mm-hmm. That's right. Feeling sexy, feeling random. And by the way, I just want to compliment you again on the beautiful graphics that are displayed behind me now.
Thank you.
I have the aqua screen behind me and making things way too sexy for my shirt.
There you go. The whole green screen. I like it.
Yeah, well, it'll do until I get to Walmart and buy my own green screen or
sheet
or to the chair.
Whatever.
Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever works, right?
Just spray paint.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that'll up the value of a house.
Oh yeah, they're like, wow, what's this room? What's that smell?
It's the lime room.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, but it's a beautiful day, my friend. And hey,
we're finally here at the Tom Rasch interview. How?
Yes.
we've been pumping this for what, 3 months? I think.
Yeah, 3 months. We had more than one, but under 1,000 entries, and we had Mr. Drew that won, and he is here with us today. You know what? Should we just bring him in?
Let's bring him in.
Let's bring him in. He is the guest host for today. Ladies and gentlemen, Drew Garrett out of Missouri. Oh, look, he's even got
what's going on, guys.
There he is.
I brought the merch.
Yeah,
Nice.
buddy. Yes. Well done, my friend.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going, Drew?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Good, man. All is well. Now, where are you from?
Independence, Missouri.
Okay.
Kansas City
cool.
suburb. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yes.
Oh.
And Drew is Drew actually had the the majority. Okay, this is how weird the drawing went. Okay.
Okay.
Drew had the majority of entries. Okay.
Okay.
I will just say that, but I had because remember we were running late last week.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I had my daughter write people's names down and put them, for every time they entered, right?
Right. Yeah.
She just put in one name for each person. She didn't do them all. So it was totally random that Drew won. Like,
Well,
I mean, even though he had the majority of entries.
Yeah,
Random
in
Christian
honor
show.
of the show, in
Random.
honor of the show, it really should be a truly random drawing.
And so I was just like, wow, okay. But anyway, so congratulations, Drew.
Yeah.
Thank
Drew,
you,
happy
thank
to
you,
have
thank
on.
you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me on.
So,
Very
what
much
is your
appreciated.
level? What is your level of fandom for Tom Rasch? Like, how stoked are you to be here right now?
Talking to me or Chris?
Yes, you.
Me. Oh,
He
sorry.
doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about me at all. In fact,
Oh.
you'll find that out as the show progresses. He
I have been
doesn't-
I have been talking about this all day. I've been ready to be on here. I've been just talking my wife's ear off about this show. I was like, I can't wait to do this. I can't wait to be on. I'm so excited for it. So
and
Glad to
That's
be here.
awesome, man. That's great.
his poor wife works from home, and Drew's on vacation this week, so
she's had
yeah.
to deal with me every day.
she's had to deal with him every day. And she's like,
She's
"Okay,
had
I
no
get
breaks.
it. You're excited about the show. I'm
Right.
trying to do a conference call. I help pay the bills.
No
yeah.
breaks.
Yeah. So, anyway, so yes, so we were very excited, and Drew was very excited to be on here, and yeah. So, in honor of that fact, well, actually, Drew doesn't have access to the. Dang it! I didn't even think about that. We could have given Drew access to.
Oh,
the,
that's true. But it probably more fun if he reacts to this
Yeah.
as well.
Good point.
I think.
Good point.
So we have we decided to do a top 12 list in honor of our guest.
Okay.
Yes, as we have been doing. It's
Right.
It's usually guest themed in some
Guest,
way. Or
yeah,
form.
guest appropriate if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm
And so this week's was our top 12 worst superpowers that you can have.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was pretty sexy and intriguing. Yeah, you gave me that, so I'm using it.
I
buddy.
immediately regret adding new sounds to the soundboard whenever I do it.
Yes.
All right, so
I'm
number
loving it.
12.
So, yeah. So let's start at number 12. And Andrew, would you like to start off with number 12?
Sure. The power of irritable bowel syndrome, aka the squatter.
Well, going with my ER visit earlier today, this was probably part of it.
Oh no. All right, we have seemed to hit too close to home.
Am I a supervillain? Am I a supervillain?
Yes, yes, you are Drew the squatter Garrett now.
Oh, you will forever be known as the squatter.
Yes, the
Oh
squatter.
my gosh. That's awesome.
Listen
right.
to my toilet thunder.
But excuse me for 1 minute. I'm about to cause doom on all of you, but I'll be back in a moment. All right. I keep screwing up my list here.
We still got
okay,
11 to go.
I
Yeah.
know. So let's go to a number 11. Number 11 would be puberty power. That's right, guys. I'm also known as Mr. Awkward Guy.
Yeah, the voice deepens at night and then it cracks during the day.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Yeah.
I kind of like girls.
It's almost Shazammy. Shazammy. That's it. I'm using it.
Shazam's new name.
Shazammy.
Awkward Guy. I'm a man. No, I'm a boy. Okay, number 10.
Number 10, almost invisibility. That would be Captain Opaque. And I like this. Like, you're not fully invisible. You're just like kind of there.
Yeah.
Which is almost like me in real life. Like, people barely notice me. Like, am I half there?
It's just kind of sitting there like,
yeah.
You don't really see me, but you kind of do. I know.
Okay,
Right.
so which parts are invisible then?
Well, I think it's like a full, like it's like a 50% like transparency, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks
Okay.
like it's like old VCR tracking. It's like, you know, it's like something's not. Wait a minute.
Something's
like, how do I fix
ghosting
that?
on you.
Like the guy's like, it's not fully there, and you gotta, you know, take it out and blow on it and whatnot to fix it.
Oh my god. The old Nintendo cartridges.
Right. Yeah.
They still work to this day,
Put it
though.
in.
That's
Pull it out,
right.
Pull it in.
That
Pull it
is
out. Put it in.
So true. Yeah.
Press the button 3 times. Okay, it's working. Go, 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 go. Yeah. Oh god. Who does not miss those days? All right. Number 9. Half fish, half man, which actually the upper half is all fish, and it's basically just a fish with legs. Also known as the fin.
So now this would have been silly, but recently they've done King Shark very well.
Yeah,
on screen.
I agree.
Both in the Suicide Squad and in the Harley Quinn animated
Oh.
series. So this, this seems like a silly power, but no, they've sort of stepped up their game in terms of this actual superpower in the zeitgeist. So it's. Sorry, I didn't mean to pee on your pee on your list a little bit, Christian.
Unless you're something you're not a good fish.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that was we
you
kind
could
of
be a
imagined
perch.
like
Could be a perch.
and that's what we were thinking of is like a trout or something.
Well,
Yeah.
I like the reverse
Not a threatening fish.
Yeah, the reverse merman or mermaid.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like to the different. Yeah, it's like, well,
That's all
no,
it is.
you know, yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a big fish head flopping
Right.
around with its little fins and
Right.
yeah. Okay, that one wasn't that impressive, but I still give a C for effort. kind of like,
He is in fish in the sea.
I was
Heyo.
damn it, I was working
Heyo.
towards
Huh?
okay.
Heyo.
Drew's caught on way too quick to this show.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. There, that one goes to you, Drew.
right.
Number eight, Andrew.
Number 8, the ability to water something slowly, aka sprinklehosen. So basically, it's like the shower water pressure I've had in my last 3 places. Like, just like,
You're just like,
right. Yeah. It's like, I'll get there. The suds will happen eventually. I just have to keep going.
Eventually, there'll be enough water to wet my whole head. And yeah. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Number 7, the smartest person in the world, but they have dyslexia. They're also known as Nyack brain.
These are my favorite kind of superpowers because I love it when somebody can do something but they can't like express it
Fully do it.
or do it. It's like he has the answer to the universe but he can't say anything, I don't know.
Well,
That's all. Yeah, right.
my daughter helped me with some of these, so
These
I was-
are great, by the way. The fact that they came from her, I think, is amazing.
I was very impressed. Like
Very great.
all of a sudden she'd be like, oh, "What about this?" I'm like, "Oh my god, write that down!" And it was all while we were driving, so it was kind of funny. Oh, am I doing number 6 or was that you?
You did that one, so I'll do number 6.
There you go.
Yeah. They have super long hair, but they have hair loss, but they can grow it back very quickly, aka patches?
That sounds terrible.
It-
So you're meaning my shower drain is going to be just the same as it is now with a wife and daughter.
right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And
Cousin
and
it.
then you become known as Plumber Man.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Essentially cousin it,
Yeah.
Right.
Cousin Itch, who suddenly goes naked and then grows it all back.
Right.
Which that's just awkward.
Yeah.
I
Number
forgot-
5.
I forgot to enable the chat.
Oh, that's okay. Corey Hall, how's it going, buddy?
Hi, Corey. Welcome.
Hello, Corey.
Let's see. Number 5.
Number 5.
Super speed, but he is super clumsy, also known as Tripsy or the Tripster.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We couldn't decide on the name, but I mean, can you imagine like somebody like the Flash also?
Well,
Okay.
Okay. Have you guys ever watched The Boys on Amazon?
Oh yeah.
The Fast Guy first episode. That right there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to
That
get
is-
into too many gruesome details, but
Yeah. No, that's one of my favorite superhero shows.
such a good one.
At the moment.
Such a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now the chat is enabled. For some reason, it didn't click when I clicked it. So I apologize. Terribly sorry. Okay. So
Number 4.
now, number 4.
The ability to fly, but they're scared of heights, aka the Fall Guy.
That's a zinger right there.
Right.
Let's see.
Stay on the ground.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do number 3,
Okay.
which is the ability to become an animal, but they're allergic to animals, also known as irrational.
I would just call this one the Sneeze.
Oh,
Mr.
damn it.
Sneeze.
Right. Yeah.
And welcome Guru P.
You'll get it out.
Vom.red, whatever that is. Hey, welcome to the show
Vom.red.
there, you
Yeah.
guru.
There you go. Number 2, the ability to only understand half of every known language, aka misunderstood man.
Huh?
The ability to only understand half of every language.
What?
So you're only getting half of the exactly.
See, he's
Oh.
got it down.
I
That's
don't
crazy.
know what
I already have that
I don't
superpower.
understand what you're saying.
I've already got that one. Ask my
Yes.
wife.
Right.
I was gonna say talking to my wife or my daughters,
Right.
especially because my daughters like to talk in memes and the LOL. They just
Right,
go,
yeah.
lol.
Right.
Why are you lolling? What is
Yeah,
that?
I totally lolled at that.
Yeah. Oh,
What?
Yeah.
Huh?
BRB. What? What are you burping for? What the hell are you
Well, see,
doing?
I get that kind of stuff. I don't get the emojis. That's
Yeah.
that's one that's I'm a little too old for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
Number 1.
Where are we at here? Oh, hold on.
Number 1.
Number 1, most worst superpower ever. The power of knowing and discussing everything about nothing in particular. Do we know what it is?
It's you.
It's Randomity Man.
Because it all comes back to the show, everybody. It all comes back to the show.
It all is about me and the show.
All right.
So-
I am taking that sound off of the soundboard right now.
No, you are not. It's awesome.
You have overused it. You have officially overused it.
No. It's good. It's a good sound. All right,
All
I'll be good. So I thought that was pretty fun and kind of sexy. So
Oh no.
no, I'm not doing
Did
it.
it?
I'm
thank
not
you.
gonna do
I'll
it.
Thank
wait
you.
for it.
Drew's ready for it at this point. He's like, oh, let's do it. Go. Come on, bring it. All right, guys. Well, I think it's about time, speaking of superheroes, superpowers, and all these sorts of things, to bring on one of the most I've been so super psyched for this show, especially after like the first time I got to talk with him on the phone. As we talked about in the pre-show, we just totally geeked out and we're talking about Star Trek and all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. So let's bring him in former DC comic and Marvel comic, now got his own Trash Universe, which I absolutely love this name. It is Tom Rasch, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Rasch.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
Good.
I realize
All
in this
right.
lighting, I kind of look like one of the unused cast members of Duck Dynasty between my hat and the beard. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that is, yeah, you kind of got that little Duck Dynasty thing going.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go mudding. Well, welcome to the show, my good friend. How are you, sir?
Great to meet everybody. I've really enjoyed watching the opening of your show. And I was going to say, I've been doing quite a few podcasts lately, and I've been really impressed with kind of the vibe and the production values of everyone's podcast. They've really come a ways, I think, in the last number of years. So kudos.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, thank you,
thanks.
sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. The pandemic gave us nothing but time to perfect our craft.
There's at least
if
one of
you
the
wanna-
positive byproducts, right?
Right. If you want to
Yes,
call it
yeah.
perfecting our craft, but
Yeah, it's well, yeah, I guess, yeah, if you want to call it a craft. I'm not sure.
yeah.
It's something we do. So
Yeah.
and we have fun with it. So that's the
Yeah.
most important thing.
Exactly.
All right, so Mr. Rasch, let's just go over a little. Oh, by the way, Drew, Tom Rasch, Drew.
Tom,
Drew,
how you
once
doing?
again, great to know
That
you.
is the
Good.
winner
Nope,
for
meeting
the
you, man.
show, and we are so excited. Tom, let's go back. I know this starts for you way back when you were a kid, starting with the whole idea of being a comic artist, and you started very young. You were about 11 years old, you said.
Well, it starts actually a little earlier than that. The short story is always that when I was about 4 or 5 years old, my dad was stationed in Guam. He was in the Air Force. That's my first memories of television. My dad, Bob, and my mother, Maggie, was an amazing artist. And so I would actually start copying her drawings. That was
Okay.
when I developed an early interest just by copying pictures that she did. And then on television, I saw the old Spider-Man cartoon that had the jazzy theme.
Oh yeah.
And all of this was all at the exact same time in tandem, and then Star Trek and Batman with Adam West.
Mhm.
And
Oh, yeah.
so been a card carrying nerd since those days. Like I said, that's my first, like my brain exploded with nerd culture before we knew what that was. And that was a love at first sight. And I've never looked back. And so through the years, probably several years later, we came back to the States and my mom started buying me my first comic books. And I was really kind of thrown off a bit because this was the early 70s, by the way. My mom picked up a comic book and it was the Neil Adams era of Batman. And so I was like, why is Batman's cape like 30 feet long? And, where's Robin at? And the Batmobile doesn't look the same, but it did initiate an interest in reading comic books. So I kind of had the reverse that some people do. Like I discovered comics after the television shows.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But and then that just kind of continued with me. And one thing I forgot to share, and I've shared it a couple of times on Facebook, I actually would create my own superhero costumes when I was in an early grade school. I'd go to
Very
school
Cool.
Very cool.
underneath my civilian clothes, sweating my butt off
Oh,
because of all the layers. So I was living and eating and breathing this stuff. And then when I was around 11, that was a big turning point for me because then I started to notice the artists that drew comic books. And it wasn't just about the characters. And so John Byrne was doing his run with Chris Claremont on the X-Men. That was the first comic I started buying a monthly on my own. And right around that time, Star Wars premiered.
Mm-hmm.
So everything pre like Star Trek and Batman, everything, and then going to discovering comic artists, Star Wars coming out around the same time. I knew that my passion was storytelling. So when I was 11, I'm like, am I going to draw comic books or I also wanted to be a writer, director of films. And even then I kind of had an idea of Hollywood and swimming with the sharks. So I was like, I said,
Nice.
I think that I will do comics instead because back then I was a little more reserved.
Right.
And, and so like a lot of artists that I've seen interviews, I would always draw pictures of Batman, the Enterprise, Spider-Man, everything that I loved, other Iron Man. But I started doodling my own characters too around this same time. And, it was just so much fun to like give your character kind of his own identity and kind of bring him to life. And so 11 years old is when I started creating, I guess, the beginning of the Trash Universe. And And I never lost interest doing any of this stuff. And so as I got a little bit older, in fact, you'll hear stories about sometimes young guys were into comics and other things, and they'll discover girls.
Yeah.
That also didn't change for me, because I remember I had a girlfriend calling my house when I was 15, and she called my house 20 times, and I'm like, "What do you want? I'm drawing comics." So she immediately got put second on the shelf.
Oh,
And, so I mean, it's been like such a lifelong love. And then as I got older, I started reading magazines about the comic industry and like, how does one do this? How does one, I guess, go to this next level? And so it took a few years, and then I ended up going to my first San Diego Comic-Con to try and get work, and I immediately got shot down by DC and Marvel.
Yeah.
And it was an experience I needed to have. And I think a lot of guys that want to draw comics, I shouldn't say guys, people, because obviously the gender marketplace is really kind of evened out.
right.
But I sort of walked away. In fact, I remember that first day at the San Diego Comic-Con after seeing other people who I thought were better than me get shot down. So I very, very nervously walked up to an editor who I'm actually friends with now on Facebook. He's a writer for DC, but he kind of gave me a pretty good lashing, and I really needed it, because I think I needed to kind of get away from that bubble that you have where you're like grandma and your friends tell you that you're an amazing artist. But if you want to compete with the pros, you really got to step up your game.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I went to every comic company. Like I said, DC was first. Marvel was second. I remember Mark Grunwald, who's since passed away. He was eating a donut, and I came up and said, "Excuse me, can I show you my work?" And he was just like, "Ugh." So he went ahead and looked at it and pointed things out, and he goes, "Yeah, you're not quite ready for Marvel assignments." So then I worked my way down the indie comic companies, and every one of them shot me down.
Oh, wow.
And,
oh my gosh.
And so that was 3 days of that almost. And then I finally decided on Sunday to have some fun. I went and approached artists that I really admired. I still feel this way to this day. Comic artists, to me, comic creators are like way bigger than any movie star I would ever meet. That's how thrilled I fanboyed out all these decades.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So I went to Carl Kessel, who was inking John Byrne on Superman, since I love John Byrne. And he went ahead and took a look at my work, and he actually gave me a lot of encouragement. He said, your line work and your embellishing is dialed in. And it's kind of that one voice that I needed to hear to not want to throw in the towel.
Right.
After that first experiences. So he gave me some quick tips about storytelling, the foundations, because I was trying to be really clever and do a Watchmen-esque style, like grid for my pages and all that. But I wasn't ready. I didn't have the skill set there. And so I went ahead and took a few years off and worked on everything he told me. And I did everything that he said. And so I went back a few years later with a couple of very dear friends of mine who wanted to draw comics. And so the first place I went, once again, was DC, like last time. And this time they go, "Tom, who were you working for?"
Oh, wow.
And so that was kind of like, that was their way of saying, well, your work is professional enough.
Yeah.
Are you already getting work from,
Yeah.
and so I went around and got that
cool.
same response from every company. And then a few months later, I got a phone call from Marvel.
Nice.
And I thought my roommate was playing a practical joke, because he'd done it once before and I was going to strangle him. He pretended to be this editor from Malibu Comics. And I was like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? That's not even funny. So when the guy called from Marvel, I said, "Did you do that again?" And he's like, no, I swear to God. So of course I was nervous and shaking, and it was a legit call. And then and it was a weird dichotomy too, because I was also in a band with my family. We traveled on the road for a couple of years, so I was living this weird like double kind of life where I was super nerd doing comics during the day, and at nighttime going performing in the bar, and girls wanting to come back to my room. And I'm like, I got to go try comics. And they thought I was kidding. They didn't believe it. So
they're like, honey, you really want to draw a comic right this in front of you, huh? You're like,
Well, and I will try and clean this up for the family part of the audience. But one year when I was doing that, this girl asked if she could come back to the room. And I said, well, I got to draw. She's like, drawing what? And I said, comic shields. Well, can I come back and watch you draw? And I said, yeah, I guess. It's kind of weird. So she does come back to my room and proceeds to doff her clothes. And I'm like, what are you doing? And I made her leave. I think she was totally beside herself. Made her get dressed and leave, because I'm like, no, this is serious business. This is my dream. I'm not going to blow it. So
yeah. Well, maybe she wanted you to draw her like one of your French girls.
Exactly. I was going to say, I missed my Titanic moment for sure.
Right.
Oh my God.
No, but I just, I think that like I've kind of gone back and done reverse engineering with self-analysis, and like everything, like I said, that I've enjoyed doing my whole life kind of led me up to, like I said, the storytelling. Like I had tons of toys and action figures. I would come up with storylines. I had the the Mego DC and Marvel heroes. I had the Star Trek ones. I would take them out in my backyard, and I'd have all these events by myself. Classic art nerd, didn't have a lot of friends, so I spent a lot of time with my toys and my imagination.
Right.
And I got a little too literal. I actually had a model of the Hindenburg that I one time burned up at my parents' house. So I got in trouble with that from my mom. But trying to do, art imitates life thing. But I took that one, unfortunately, to the extreme. But, everything since then has always been about that. And so, and there's obviously a lot of learning lessons along the way, too.
Right.
But one thing I will say that, like, getting your foot in the door with comics is not much different than any other part of the entertainment field. It's like if you want to be an actor or a band getting a gig with a record label, you kind of have to have a number of things working for you. Yeah. And once you do get your foot in the door, as I said, my big toe, you really still got to hustle. You can't just like rest on your laurels and go, okay, I've made it. And I did have to actually learn some of that the hard way, because I had worked on Punisher 2099, and I was really excited to get that gig because I sort of felt like if I'm going to do a book, I would almost like to have it be a book that I can sort of leave my imprint on. I stylistically like I didn't want to get a Batman or X-Men or anything out of the gate. So, and at the time, Marvel actually sent me a letter telling me what my rate was going to be for the comic, and they even said, they go, normally we start artists out at this rate, but we're bumping you up quite a bit because we love your style, and we kind of, at the time when the superstar thing was going on with comic artists, I think that was their plan to kind of groom me in that aspect. And then, but I will say this, the unfortunate part for me was that the market was pretty rough just as I got my big toe in, and that's when a lot of books started collapsing after the big implosion during the heydays of Image and stuff. And so it was more difficult to get work for quite a while after that. And then so I had a couple of buddies who also eventually, by the way, got to do work for Image and DC that we grew up together. And so they said, come over to video games. That's what we're doing. And there's way more money, which is true than comics. And you're also a salaried employee. And most of the time you work, an 8-hour day and you're done and you get benefits, et cetera. So I always treated that as the same thing as comics, I guess, because, and here's a little factoid I don't really share a lot. I worked for a number of years in the video game industry too, but I don't play video games at all.
Oh.
And so when I'd go into these studios for the interviews, they'd ask me these questions, and my buddies and I used to make a joke, like, since I don't really know exactly what to tell them, I could just go, they're like, what's your favorite game? And I would go like, wow, like, World of Warcraft.
Oh yeah.
And that's only going to last about 2 seconds. And so I said, no, we're not going to do that. So I would just be honest. I'd be honest with, the art directors and everyone. I just said, I said, I don't play games, but I said, here's the commonality between like comics and games and drawing. Really, I said the 5 or 7-year-old in me gets to draw, like, design like laser guns and monsters and cool, futuristic, uniforms and costumes. I said, so that's where the enthusiasm comes in. As I said, at the end of the day, it really does boil down bringing something to life out of nothingness. And I said, and there's some overlapping between like comics and games. And I did a little bit of film work too, doing some concept work. And so I said, so that's always what kind of got me in the door. But after, a time, and I started becoming pretty heavily present on Facebook, and people said, would you ever want to go back to doing comic for the big companies? And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, because it is a pretty labor intensive position. And, that was a while ago. I'm like, yeah. So I said, really, if I'm going to invest time, I'm going to go back and get my characters off the ground. And so I sort of re-embraced my initial passion. And so the first one I dust off was a character called Black Alpha. The first one I created at 11 years old. And the pitch is, what if you took the Batman story, sprinkled in Iron Man tech, and dropped it off in the middle of Star Wars?
Yeah. That is such a great explanation of it. It's all right there, like in that fundamental DNA of storytelling. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Of superheroes, science fiction, spaceships. You know what I mean? Yeah. It ties in everything.
Yeah. And so that was the one that I'm like, I'm going to get that off the ground. And then since that time, it was published in USA Today, I've had merchandise from it on The Big Bang Theory, numerous episodes of that show.
Oh,
Um, and it's been optioned a few times for TV, movie, and cartoon development. And that all actually happened in a short amount of time once I got it out on Facebook. And I actually made a kind of a swift change when I started doing comic book conventions to sort of quit promoting DC Marvel, my comic book pedigree, and go, I'm going to focus on getting my content out there. And there's something very vulnerable and scary because you could sort of go the safer route and people want to come to you and say, hey, can I get a drawing of Green Lantern? And they're going to know what that is. But if they come over to your table and nothing is recognizable, there is that chance that they're not going to be interested. But with that being said, I decided to borrow a page out of the marketing I heard for when Star Wars was going to come out in the 70s. And what I've seen even the movie studios do now, where I created merchandise prototypes, 12-inch statues and posters and T-shirts with the logo on it. And that at least brought people over to my table to go, what is this? And then I can kind of give a pitch.
I was going to say, you have that, hey, what do you got there kind of thing going, and especially I think in the era that you were bringing all that out, that's when people were actually looking for those underground kind of comics and all the different ones that nobody's ever heard of. So they can be the first ones to say, hey, dude, oh, you're just now getting into Black Alpha? Dude, I remember, I was at Comic-Con and I picked it, they're talking about how they were already checking you out before you were even getting out there,
Well, and the first time I had Black Alpha in the public eye, I actually did the very first Image Comics Expo in Oakland, California. And it was really cool. I had people who already had hit books at Image come over. Same thing, asked me, or people that were working in animation at Warner Brothers came over to my table and they're like, what is this? This is cool. And I think because too, like I've said it for quite a while, philosophically, I wear my influences on my sleeve. I create what I love. And so there seems to be kind of an element of like familiarity, but the newness, it's like a new intellectual property. And so that's kind of worked to my benefit. And then I also, around the same time, like I said, really started heavily promoting what I was doing on Facebook. And almost every opportunity that I've had for my character since that time has 99% been because of something like Facebook. Like another character of mine, Salem Tusk, I created as a sophomore in high school. I didn't know how to drive. I didn't have a car. So I walked back and forth to school and my brain was just, firing like nonstop. And I'd have an image pop in my head and then the story would kind of sort of build around it. And Salem Tusk, that's kind of how he came about. And then actually there's going to be a movie made of that.
Oh, wow.
Which begins filming in the fall of 2022. And I'm really excited about that.
In fact, hang on here. I'm experimenting with my technological savvy here. And I have a picture. Hold on. Here we go. Boom. There's Salem Tusk right there. I did it.
Oh, nice.
Yay. Now, is this someone that's slated to possibly be the actor? Is he just a model?
No, that's actually the star and my business partner. His name is Bishop Stevens. He used to be a WCW WWE wrestler, and he's been on the last probably several years, 7 to 10 years, building his acting resume. And he's been on The Walking Dead and on the Chicago PD and Empire, that show with Terrence Howard. And so we met on a group called The Advisor, which this guy, James Neil Brodus, runs, and he connected us. And so we hit it off. And so we've been developing this thing for a few years. We did a couple of concept trailers. And so, and it's going to be a low budget indie action movie, but I'm still very thrilled because having something come to life. I tell people that I've had in my head, and the fact that even with Black Alpha, Salem Tusk, and I have at least a few other IPs that I've had on the public eye, and Hollywood has been interested in all of them. So not just one. And so that's been a pretty amazing feeling. And and of course, I also understand, I've learned also the other side of things where sometimes things look like they're going to happen and then they don't, and then they're going to happen and then they don't. And so I'm really having to learn patience, especially over the last few years. And, but it's very, I guess it's very, fulfilling to me that, that my instincts are at least somewhere where I feel they are. Because as a child, even with Black Alpha, I used to have, I would go outside at recess at school, stand by myself, hum the theme song of a cartoon, what it would sound like, what the toys would look like, even doing interviews. These are all things that I daydreamed about in my grade school years. And so, and because of the fact that I've loved not just comics. I've loved TV shows. I've loved the merchandising. I mean, and I've sort of built my IPs in the same regard where I'm like, I want it to be a board game. I'd like it to be a video game. I'd like it to be a toy line. And, real quick too. And I also grew up loving, we talked about Star Trek. My dad bought me my first model kits, AMT of the Enterprise and the Klingon battlecruiser.
Oh, yeah.
And so I actually have a model kit. Awesome. There we go. The big E. The big E.
There we go.
By the way, I don't mind that design. People like to poo-poo that J.J. Abrams design.
Dude,
That's
no,
one.
this is
No.
awesome. This is
And I will say this on a side note. I'm one of those fans that I'm a purist, but I don't blast the other iterations. Like I love the original series. I like the Abrams movies. I think they're fun. I'm entertained by them. So, and everything that does with them, I let it exist as its own iteration. But I'm also excited that, loving model ships, that we have a model kit of one of my ships from Black Alpha that's going to be released in May. And so that's also going to be very exciting for me.
Oh, yeah. And that's dude, I love that. I see where I think you have like a Star Wars-esque kind of styling to it. Some of their ships, the way it's shaped forward. And I love the way there's some ships like that, but you've got this whole other thing going on with the middle part. I was told, I told you, I've been kind of geeking out on your pages and stuff. So I've been like studying all these things about the Black Alpha and his ship. Oh my gosh, now I can't remember the name of it, and it's a really cool name.
The Aramis.
Aramis, yes.
7, and it's got a bit more of a Star Trekian vibe to the aesthetics, but it's got the attitude of the Millennium Falcon. I mean, those are my two favorite ships.
Thank you.
The Enterprise and the Falcon.
So much.
And I mean, the same thing. The stuff I've loved my whole life came in handy. Me actually being a concept artist for video games and films, I spend years developing my intellectual property, doing all sorts of designs and development. I work with screenwriters on the story, but yeah, like I have deck plans of the Aramis 7. I've got like specs of how fast it goes, what kind of armament. I mean, and I just love that stuff anyway. So I've been applying that to what I do. And so the really fun thing is I've been sharing the ship, the concepts of the ship and 3D prints of the ship in these sci-fi model ship groups. And there's tons of people now that want to know when they can get the ship. But the sort of creme de la creme moment for me is I become very good friends with Chris Hunter. He is the son of Jeffrey Hunter, who is the original Captain Pike in the Star Trek episode The Cage and the Menagerie.
Yep.
So he's become a very big supporter. He wants to build a copy of the ship, and I'm actually sending him a T-shirt that has the Aramis 7 schematics on it, a copy of the Black Alpha comic.
That's very cool.
So I told him, for me, that's Star Trek royalty, and him being so supportive of what I'm doing is literally a dream come true. Because I told him, I said, Star Trek, like a lot of Trekkies, really changed my life in so many ways, in so many positive ways. So.
Oh yeah.
Is that
this is my pizza cutter.
Yeah, and I love that. But I've seen tons of memes with that thing on there, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where did you? We're gonna talk after the show.
Okay.
So the movie though, what kind of platforms will it be able to be viewed on, or have you not gotten that far yet?
No, we have a distributor. We locked that in back in the fall, and I think the idea is we would probably, I'm guessing, utilize both. I mean, we want to have some kind of a theatrical release, but that market has shifted quite a bit. So I still would be happy, because the one thing I couldn't remember if I mentioned this earlier when I was talking about stuff, I've been in talks with Netflix now for a couple of months.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
About my characters.
That's great.
So,
congrats.
So, and sometimes those things take a while, but at least I've got my foot in the door and we're discussing, and they're taking a look at several of my characters. So we'll see where that goes. But I've also had to learn, like I said, to be patient. So a lot of this is one step at a time. And I know that we're in pre-production on Salem Tusk. And the premise of that one, real quick too, is it's kind of like an African-American Indiana Jones that operates in sort of the steampunky kind of fantasy adventure West.
Right.
And,
that's awesome.
Sounds great.
And when I envisioned the character, like I said, when I was walking to school as a sophomore, I just envisioned this big, muscular, bald African-American like warrior type, kind of inspired by the paintings of Frank Frazetta when he would do stuff with like the Vikings and Tarzan and Conan and stuff. And so, and then I had this image of him actually riding this big woolly mammoth, and that's where the Tusk part of his name comes from. Salem, I think I like Salem, the movie Salem's Lot. So more than likely it came from that, the Stephen King. But Same thing. And so the funny thing is, like, Black Alpha being space opera, Salem Tusk being kind of like old pulpy action adventure. Subconsciously, obviously, I went with Star Wars and Indiana Jones, like,
right.
like, the beat structure is there. But and the thing that I've always loved too is we kind of live in this interesting time where people talk about diversion and inclusion. And I like the fact that my character was just that. I mean, he was just an African-American, super cool action hero. And I feel like we're kind of utilizing the post Black Panther age to kind of, I guess, sort of have that be sort of a thing. And but anyway, so and then
there's like a steampunk Superfly.
He's the hero we all need.
There you go.
Yeah, and you're not needing to bend anything in your story to update it for now. That's the great part of it too.
Well, and I think Bishop was attached to the project because he's a very big guy. He's got a very imposing physique, and a lot of times when he has been in shows, they cast him as the heavy, bodyguard. But this time he actually gets to be kind of a positive action hero, pretty much the general audience. And I think that's partially what attracted him to the project and stuff. But and then there's talk about me coming on set in September to do my Stanley style cameo.
Nice.
There you go. There you go.
And I picked out my outfit because people compare this beard to Jason Momoa. So I went and found these pictures of Jason Momoa running around in a bowler hat.
Yeah.
And on my Facebook page, I said, yeah, that's what I'm going to. That's what I'm going to be sort of rocking as my motif, I guess, for the cameo. I said I can easily be a dispatchable villain that gets punched in a bar scene, or maybe him and I will pass each other, bump into each other.
Get the beer bottle broke across your head.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to it. I said whatever those guys want to do. So.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
That's incredible.
All right, Tom, listen, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we got a whole bunch more questions for you, but just hang out for a little bit. We're going to take our commercial break, and then we'll be right back after that. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. All right. Hang on here. And so that being said, Drew, you enjoying the show so far?
Oh man, loving it, man. This is right up my alley with stuff.
Beautiful. Yes. All right.
I am a huge comic book fan, so
awesome,
cool me,
dude. All right, hang tight, brother. We'll be right back. Here we go.
All right.
And now back to you. The Random Christian Show is proudly sponsored by Neil Getzlow's new book, Unmasked. Hey, it's Christian, and we're all struggling with something in our lives. I mean, men and women both. Maybe it's an addiction or loneliness or bitterness, something that just keeps us on edge. Well, for Neil Getzlow, he had an addiction to porn that started when he was just 9 years old. And then it built up and it turned into a sex addiction as an adult. But thanks to the power of prayer and forgiveness from both God and his wife, Neil was able to walk away from those struggles and completely turn his life around. Now, it may be you or somebody you know, but if Neil can do it, I promise you, you can do it too. There is hope and there is a way out. God's going to give you the path, but are you going to take it? I want you to check out Neil's new book, Unmasked, and learn all about this. If you use the code RANDOM for free shipping, you're going to save a bunch of money and you're going to really help yourself or somebody out. All right. Go to therandomchristianshow.com. There's a link there, or go to neilgetzlow.com, NeilGetzlow.com, and check it out. Don't forget to put in the code RANDOM for free shipping. All right, there we are. And we're back. And we're back. Hey-o. All right, yeah. Make sure you go and check that out, dude. Yeah, we are gonna have.
It's even got the serial number on it.
I was gonna say it's got the ship number on it, dude. Oh my gosh. All right, let's bring our host or our guest, Thomas Rasch, back into the screen here. There he is. All right, Tom. Sorry about that, but we got to pay the bill somehow, my man.
No problem.
Where's Drew?
And Drew disappeared.
Oh,
I think Drew had to use the restroom, so I'll wait till he's back.
Okay.
Right. And there, just speaking
Hey,
of the devil, there he is. Yep. All right. So, couple things. First off, back when you were trying to introduce your ideas, I'm just the first vision that came across my head is comic book guy from The Simpsons, where he's sitting there stuffing, going, worst idea ever,
Yep.
and you're just like, oh, okay, man, just like, I swear to God, that was just it. But so now, how many times did you get refused though? I mean,
As far as
when you were introducing, trying to get a job as an artist, how many times did you get shot down? They were just like, nah.
you're talking about like the first Comic-Con that I mentioned earlier?
Yeah, well, back then, yeah, when you were showing your stuff and you're trying to get a job with these people. How long? I mean, how many times were you refused? They were just like, nah, kid. It's cool.
Well, I would say at a minimum, the companies that I approached that first time could have been anywhere between, I don't know, like a dozen to maybe almost 30.
Yeah. Okay.
And each one of them said like no right out of the gate. And I mean, yeah, at the time it was crushing, but I've learned too that anybody that wants, like I said earlier, if you want to do anything in the entertainment field, you definitely have to grow a thicker skin. Because even me getting my foot in the door with video games, I actually had to compete with about 100 other people.
Right.
And then I had to make it into a top 10, and then I had to make it into a top 3.
Yeah.
And I had an art test, and I actually stayed up for about 2 or 3 days straight to get that done.
Wow.
Just
damn.
And that's partially what it was about, I think, to see sort of how bad you want something. And so, and even currently, I mean, that, like I said, just because some things are a success, you always have to have it in the corner of your brain. You're still going to have to, like I said, continue to hustle. And, I've had even in the last 10 years, like I said, disappointments with Hollywood and my IP. And, I'm human. There's been days where just like, okay, this is not working. I need to do something different or find something else to do. But then I'm not really being honest with myself, at the end of the day, that I'm like, when certain people, and I feel blessed because I'm like, for most of my life, I've known what I was put on this earth to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not being honest with myself. And then a real quick side note too, I forgot to mention this, but I've been the subject of a documentary film that started filming 2 years ago. And we've only got a few scenes left to film. But what the documentary is about is me at my age attempting to still kind of go through all these different cycles of dreams and goals. And then also being a new dad, my daughter's 3 years old. And so she's a big part of the narrative, the story of like kind of leaving her more than one legacy, a legacy of like having, expect the best, but you're going to have to work for it. Just a number of things. And, just kind of let her know that dad went through his whole life attempting these things, and obviously the tragedy is, the old saying, if you don't at least try, that's kind of the sad thing, that's where the dreams die.
Well, and ultimately that's the best lesson that we can teach is to sort of stick to your guns. And if it's something you want to do, do it to the best of your
find
ability.
a way to make it happen. Yeah. Right. And there's a lot of people nowadays that, have taught they're teaching their kids, hey, it is what it is. You're just going to have to deal with it. No, don't accept no. There's nothing wrong with saying you're full of crap. I'll find something else. And you kept going. That's why I was curious, because I know there's going to be people that listen to this and they're like, oh, well, he just, he's so good. He just got in. Like, no, it took you 30 tries, to get somebody to just go, okay. And I'm sorry, I forgot the gentleman's name again that started taking some interesting work and gave you some pointers. Well, who was that again?
Carl Kessel, the inker of John Byrne on Superman.
Yeah. And, that is so cool. I mean, yeah, okay. He saw you had something, or at least you had drive. And he said, why don't you, do this or whatever. And he gave you some pointers. He gave you some tips on how to step in and keep going and advance what you were doing. And so, then you take that and you keep going, and then boom, you get in,
Well, and I also changed my approach a little bit, because when I went to the companies the next time and they acted interested, and I had tons of Xeroxes of samples, which for people, the uninitiated, usually it's kind of an audition. Like there's 3 to 5 pages to show editors and the company that, what you're there for, which is to do sequential storytelling. And I also, the Marvel gig partially did come about because I started approaching artists that I liked, and they were kind of had the same reaction, like, oh, hey, let me introduce you to my editor over here. And that was, the networking aspect was something that I was kind of grasping later on, that because I think there's a bit of a holy grail element for people. Any kind of dream that you have, you're sort of like nervous and you're excited and you want to put this dream like up on this highest pedestal, and you have to kind of treat it for what it actually is going to be, which is, there's going to be work,
Yeah.
And you sort of have to really start to gain some confidence that if you want to, I guess, compete in the arena with these people you admire, you have to kind of get your skills polished to that level and think of yourself in those regards too, you know, because if you don't want to be like arrogant, but you don't want to be so completely self-deprecating that, you know, that will show through in what you're trying to do, your presentation of your work and presentation of self.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did something very similar when I was trying to get into radio back in the day. And I ended up actually working with Lamont and Tonelli out of KSJO. I worked with Mark and Brian out of KLOS. I actually kind of had a weird friendship with Dennis Erectus from KOME, the late night jock on 98.5 out of San Jose. It was just like, you know, just phone. Talking to him all the time, but every time I advanced somewhere, I'd be like, because I told him, I said, you were one of the people who inspired me, and I just want you to know, I want to thank you for doing what you do. And he always gave me pointers. He's like, oh no, don't do that, don't do, you know. So it was really cool, and that's what you're talking about, and that's the exact thing. You know, you let people know, hey, you know, I'm here because of this, and you inspire me to do these things. And people will start taking it because they see you have depth, and they see that you've done your research, you've done your work. So with your talent that you've got, you throw that out there, and they're just like, boom, hey, yeah, we get it, you got it, you know.
Well, and the power of networking in this day and age is probably more complex and layered than it's ever been. And I always advise people, don't ever leave a bad impression. Don't burn any bridges. You know, don't be too overbearing or aggressive. Because I know, like what I talked to you about, being in talks with Netflix, that actually came about because one of my friends is a screenwriter who's already got some projects lined up with them, has been following what I've been doing with Black Alpha. And anytime something comes up, or when he has meetings out in Hollywood, he thinks of me like, hey, check out what this guy's doing. It's new. It's really cool. And like I said, Bishop, the same thing, Bishop and, James Neil Brodus that hooked us, same kind of thing. This is really cool. I think you guys, and so would be a good fit. And I tell people, I said, you know, the kind of the 101 of networking and etiquette is, you know, the classic, when your friend requests somebody, don't sit there and blast them with your material. Like, oh, hey, like my Kickstarter. And even me, when I introduce, and I'll see people that I'm kind of familiar with or have history, like with films I like, if they do accept my friend request, I just say, hi, I'm Tom Rasch. Nice to meet you. I don't say anything else after that. I figured if maybe after a while, I'll be on the radar, and they'll kind of, in fact, a lot of the stuff, like the options for Black Alpha for trying to be developed as a cartoon and stuff, has been like a film composer got me in touch with one director, producer, another guy that was working for a company. That's his job, is to find new material. He came to me and said, hey, has anybody, you know, gotten on this yet? And all that has been just about, you know, kind of just being relaxed and doing what I'm doing, you know, for my page. And and I think, you know, in the long run, it has benefited, you know, and I get it. I mean, I know people get really excited and all that kind of stuff, but I'm like, you know, just try and relax. And if that's what you're there to do, I mean, you don't want to turn anybody off, because then those are potentially so many lost opportunities. And but you don't want to lose or use people either. You know, you got to find that balance in there.
You definitely have to be
stepping stone.
Yeah, you definitely have to be smart about how you use those networks. I got my current 9-to-5 job because my mother did two persons' hair, one of which was Don Blue, who was famously on K101 for years in the Bay Area.
Oh,
yeah. And second was the secretary at another radio station, which would send my mother the job things to send to me.
Oh, listen, yeah.
And then whenever Don Blue was in the hair salon, he would always talk to me and talk my ear off, you know, and that gave me my excitement I want to do what he does. Like, I want to get in and just be part of radio. And I mean, it worked out, and I ended up working with him for 5 years. He came by my office one day and he says, aren't you George's kid? Yep.
There it is.
And
yes, I am. Wow.
I'm so glad you're here. And that was, you know, and it was that simple. So but it wasn't, because it took me a while to get that office, you know.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's so smart to make that contact, but don't abuse it. And when it's there, you know, you'll know how to use it, and you'll know how to use it right. And, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
It's like the Force.
But it's exactly. But you have that number in your back pocket essentially for when you need
I
it.
will say this while I'm thinking about it, that you know, like I said, my prime passion has been storytelling, but I've had about 4 to several side gigs that in another life I would love to do, and actually radio DJ was one of them.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I used to sit there and pretend like, hey, this is Tommy Tyler. It's about 2:00 in the afternoon. I mean, that kind of voice that you hear.
Yes.
But I always thought that would be like just a fun gig. In fact, that when I do comic convention appearances and I'm on a panel, I used to it's only semi-joking, really. I said, since I was a kid, there's like 5 things I wanted to do. And I list hairdresser as one of them. They think I'm kidding, and I'm not. Starship captain was high up on the list.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
In fact, that was like when I was in 1st grade and they asked what I was going to be. And a kid said policeman and a fireman. I said starship captain. The whole class laughed. And I'm like, what? That's not a joke. That's, but I'm saying that, so I have a really deep appreciation and respect for like, personalities that do, this kind of stuff. And so, that's probably what I've been enjoying about like kind of watching the vibe of your show is I can kind of tell that's how the polish of the professionalism, I guess, comes across to me.
Oh, wow. Well, it's all an illusion. Trust me.
That's a new one for us. No, the multiverse of Tom Rasch. I would love to hear you as a radio host.
Oh, dude, yeah, I do. And you totally went right into Mr. Radio DJ. All right, we're here listening to the traffic here on the 101.
Now, Tom, so I'm a massive video game guy.
Okay.
Which ones have you worked on?
I worked on here's another funny irony. So I worked for a company called Gazillion Entertainment, which is based out of the Bay Area, and they were doing the Marvel Heroes MMO.
Right.
Okay. And here's the funny irony. Here's the funny irony is that they didn't have me on that game. They had me on a fantasy one, which was like Torchlight or World of Warcraft, called Fortune Online, which unfortunately got canceled. So the majority of the titles I've worked on have been like the fantasy genre.
Oh,
and
cool.
That really expanded my repertoire. But the most, I worked on a title called Pain for the PlayStation Network, which was kind of like Angry Birds before there was Angry Birds. And instead, you could toss around like Andy Dick or David Hasselhoff, George Takei. And we actually, they had to sign contracts for the likenesses, and then you toss them around like rag dolls and all sorts of stuff, which is physics engine.
That's incredible.
And then I got to redesign. This isn't a moldy oldie for some of the audience, but I got to redesign the Hardy Boys. At one time, these games that you could buy in Walmart and all that stuff. And so, like I said, I always approached it as whatever this is going to be, I'm going to make it fun, and so, but I'd say, like I said, at least 3/4 of the titles I worked on, unfortunately, they didn't ship, and it's kind of the business, some titles make it, some titles don't. Even after spending millions of dollars in a couple or 2 or 3 years of dev time, they don't make it. But like I said, I did enjoy the fact that it kind of like, it wasn't just superheroes anymore. Like, I kind of understood sort of the
different genres,
the dynamics of like, with orcs and all sorts of big, like muscular warriors with armor, etc. Cool, 12 feet long swords, all that kind of stuff is fun. So, and I guess sort of bringing in the background of both comics and video games. And that's why I said, like with my own material, now that I have contacts and people I've worked with, the funding is the prime issue, of course, but I've had people approach me like, well, if you ever get a game off the ground that worked with me on other projects, we would love to, I did have a programmer, by the way, but it would have required more time than I've had available to provide graphics for a 16-bit style side scroller Black Alpha game, kind of 80s.
Oh,
we talked about doing that, Yeah, and I have a couple of examples of that on my Facebook page, but so I'm always trying to think of things in this sort of quasi-entrepreneurial style. And I've, like I said, trying to balance that with who I am. I still get occasional freelance gigs as art, but the majority of my focus now is just my own material and getting it to like a certain level,
And that was going to actually be one of my questions. Since you do have that video game tie-in, is there any chance like there could be a Salem, especially after you do this movie? Was there a chance that maybe you'd have a Salem Tusk game or something like that?
I'm always open to anything that's, like I said, the multi-platform age of, board games, video games, on my Facebook page, you can find at least some of the prototypes of these things or concepts that I've created or actually had made. that shows what a Black Alpha game would look like, or Salem Tusk is like a toy line, you know.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the goal. That's the part that I will admit at times has been frustrating in my dealings with Hollywood, because I've sort of tried to give them all this material, because, you know, at the end of the day, and a lot of the mainstream doesn't realize this, like Star Wars is a good example. The majority of the revenue Star Wars brings in is not from the movies.
No,
it's
it's
from all the
merchandising.
merchandising tie-ins.
Yeah.
And so trying to approach people to say, this isn't a one-off. This isn't like a black and white character silent film. You know, like the way I'm doing it is that franchisable plug and play method of, like, you know, this is where you build the world and you have everything that's kind of an offshoot of that. That's where, you know, the dollar sign should be of, you know, the return on investment. And that's really been my approach. Now, with all that being said, I did forget one other aspect that, you know, I've kind of gone through. So I did the first issue of Black Alpha with a friend of mine that I hired to help me with the artwork several years ago. That was the one that was published in USA Today. Real life got in the way, and I actually partnered up with these guys a year and a half ago from WTF Comics. By the way, WTF is not what you think it stands for. I'm always quick to clear that. Well, especially because I try and sell a family-friendly brand. So
yeah,
sure,
you know,
absolutely, and so, I can tell that.
Yeah, and so, but anyway, they sort of approached me, and the CEO just kind of said, "We've been watching what you're doing for a while, and we really think it's great, and we would like to partner with you to actually build crowdfunders." And so we did a successful Kickstarter for Black Alpha, where issue 2 is currently in production, and then we'll probably do a couple more for 3 and 4 to wrap up the miniseries, because that's kind of been the milestone that's been hanging over my shoulders, is to get this 4-issue miniseries done. And of course, we, through the backers, they've got a version of issue 2 that's kind of got new bonus material, or excuse me, issue 1 with bonus material. And so it's been fun to get feedback where people are like, I've been following this for years. I want to read a story. I want to be able to digest what I mean, it looks cool and it sounds cool, but I want to see a story. And that's also been a good lesson for me, because I was seduced by the dark side of the force of entertainment and was really more distracted by the glamour of the Hollywood projects, you know?
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, part of me is going, who wouldn't be? The kid in me was like, who wouldn't be? But I'm like,
right.
I would still love that to happen. But the comic medium is still such a wonderful medium, and it's still a great conduit to get story content out to an audience, you know?
Yeah.
And especially because, you know, Black Alpha is a very expansive universe. I sort of equate it to like Dune for children.
Yeah.
You know, it's got all this world building that I've spent years putting into it. And I want the audience to kind of, you know, really pick up on that aspect of the world building part, because I've spent so many years working on it. And, you know, and originally I was going to say this too, on a side note, I was, when you talked about like how people respond to what you do, I was originally going to do Black Alpha as kind of an outer space retelling of the story of Moses.
Oh, wow.
And I decided, after telling a few people the pitches, they're like, that sounds like Dune. So then I'm like, oh, then I guess I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And the more that I thought about it, I decided to set it in the same universe with kind of a hierarchy, sort of these houses, like the houses in Dune, and decided to instead have, like, it was going to be like a son who finds out that he's the adopted heir and that his family's been secretly subjugating the people like Moses, and sets on a mission to basically set the people free. And that's a very compelling story, and I may use it for something else someday, but I'm like, I would actually like to kind of tell a bit of the Three Musketeers too, where I'm like, it's about this young boy who wanted to join like a noble guard that protects a king or a monarch, but he's from, you know, the poor section of the galaxy.
Right.
And so I decided, I'm like that, you know, I mean, we didn't grow up in the most lavish environment as a child growing up. So I'm like, that's a character, kind of a Peter Parker thing that I can relate to, somebody who's like your next door neighbor. And so even though I pitch, you know, like I said, Black Alpha is Batman and Iron Man meets Star Wars, it's got some Spider-Man DNA in it with an everyman hero that when he gets his power, so to speak, he has to learn like a parable of lessons that he doesn't go out and be a hero. He has to learn things the hard way, and he will mature into a hero that's a little more selfless, etc. And then the Three Musketeers, like the ship being called the Aramis. That's exactly where that came from.
Yeah.
You know, among other things. So it's been fun to kind of really, by the way, the original Black Alpha from when I was 11, he was a guy named Dr. Adam Steele, who was in a nuclear accident, and it gave him the strength of 30 men. And that's the connective tissue, is that that the name is there. The name is there. The color scheme is there, but it takes place in space and he has a cool spaceship. So a lot of that has changed since, but I am planning on having the 11-year-old version make a cameo in one of the comic stories here coming up.
Oh, cool.
To see if people pick up on it,
Yeah, and those are actually some of my favorite stories because my wife and I watched Firefly when it aired, and and watching interviews because I'm the kind of guy that watches all of the deleted scenes, watches all of the interviews behind the scenes. Yeah. If I really love a property, right? And I heard it described as, we never really hinted this, but we also we wanted this sort of in the Star Trek universe, but we are just people that the Enterprise would just fly past and not even notice, and I really love that sort of description of it. It's like, yeah, these small stories are happening just all over the place. They can happen in these universes, and you don't necessarily need to come out and say it. You could just sort of hint it, and it just like that one line of that one interview just made me love the series that much more. That was in sort of the back of their heads when they were making it.
Right.
Well, and to me, the power of world building too is that even within my own story, I've tried to be very mindful when I'm constructing this thing. Is that we live in this age now where and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it in a lot of ways, but people sort of need to kind of have all these connected dots moments.
Yeah.
Right. I personally don't need that. I just, you throw an expositional line from a character, like in Star Trek. I knew there were 11 other ships, like the Constitution class Enterprise, right? And sometimes we got a peek of some of those other crews. But I like the idea that the theater of my mind, could kind of fill in the blanks. In Star Wars, when Obi-Wan is telling Luke about the history of the Jedi Knights, it's the exact same thing. I didn't need to see. I mean, the prequels, I know people love to poo-poo the prequels, and I can kind of appreciate them for what they are, but I didn't necessarily need to see that version of the story. I didn't need to see,
right.
And so even in my own story, like I've said it, I have a star map in one of the books that says, here's where characters will talk about these other dozen star systems. We may never see them. We'll even hear historical plot points mentioned, but that's just to give you some context that this is a big world, and even cultural cues, anthropological cues of races that I said, this is about this particular lead character's story. And, if I had the time and the resources, we can do all sorts of spin-offs of different ages. And these guardsmen, by the way, these guardsmen protect these 12 systems in my story. And they're pretty close to the Jedi Knights and the Green Lanterns, the idea of sort of the space galactic patrol, which originated with something called the Lensmen from E.E. Doc Smith in the early 30s. Right, everything. Okay. And the Lensmen were kind of the template. It's usually a space cop force, and they have a talisman that gives them superhuman abilities. Obviously, the Green Lanterns have the rings. The Lensmen had a lens that was in the palm of their hand. In Black Alpha, it's something called a cell suit. Cell, CEL, stands for Cyber Enhanced Link, and it's the suit that kind of gives them amplified abilities. But even the guardsmen, I sort of would equate them to sort of the Shaolin monks meets the Marines. And you're not going to see a bunch of each faction kind of protects its own star system. You're probably and they're slowly dying out too. So we're not really going to focus on, like the Green Lanterns, where you have all these numerous Green Lanterns protecting every sector of the known universe. Mine is going to be about what if a character, a young boy, and he's probably about 5, like I was, who decided what he wanted to do with his life, and he in his universe, becoming one of these guardsmen is the closest thing he can think of to becoming a superhero. Yeah. But there's, I play around with the super mythology. He ends up having a family tragedy happen. And so in a roundabout way, he becomes a hero, just not the way he envisioned as a young boy, because he's had some pretty tragic things happen to him, and he lost his way for a while. And so when our story begins in Black Alpha, I kind of do the Star Wars treatment. I drop you off in the middle of the action, and then there's some flashbacks. But it's really going to be a character piece about how would any of us handle our hero's journey? You know what I mean? Learning lessons in life, and not coming out of the gate being this polished hero. Like I said, he's going to have some trials to go through, and I want that to make him more human.
Kind of like Spider-Man.
Exactly. That's why I said he's got a lot of the Peter Parker vibe in there. Because I say
relatable human aspects of it all.
Yeah, and that's kind of, and I realize. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna. So you got the comics, you got the movies you're working on. Do you plan on maybe scaling it further to maybe like a book series or anything, and have more in-depth, like bigger stories enlarged in a book?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been on my Facebook page. I've had a lot of like concepts for like a novel, because that is the ultimate goal. Like anything, like I said, that I love, you can do so many different facets of storytelling. You can do novels, you know
Yes.
what I mean, that explore a certain history of that corner of that universe. In fact, I'll just tell you guys, I do have kind of a rough pitch that I'm hoping at some
Okay.
point we can get to do. And it would actually be about, I'm a sucker for tragic love stories too, that it would
Who
be
isn't?
about this story of a young couple, a guardsman cadet program that they graduate. They go on their first mission together, and one of them does not perishes by the end of the book. But you don't know who it is until you actually get to the end.
Gotcha.
You know,
Awesome.
so that and it's actually tied into the current iteration, because at the end you'll see because my hero Trandon Antares, he ends up finding this cell suit in a ship of a fallen guardsman.
Mhm.
So you know what happened to him. He wasn't able to enlist in the academy, and he kind of hung out with these pirates for a few years, because he sort of tries to find his colony's destroyed, and his younger brother and his father are both killed. His mother had already passed away from illness. So he tries to kind of go to the authorities. They're no help. He decides to kind of integrate himself into the underworld. And kind of like Bruce Wayne in the Batman Begins, he sort of starts to become a criminal, you know, and then
Right.
he ends up having a few circumstances that happen, crash lands on this planet, finds his suit and ship. And even then, when he sees them, he's not impressed. He's
Yeah.
just like, okay, now I've got tools. I'm going to go kill who I think is responsible. And that's kind of the way he initially sort of kind of behaves. But the one thing I will say, that like the cell suit, that's obviously the Iron Man aspect, you know,
Yeah.
Right.
abilities. But the Guardsman program was set up to sort of kind of be a level the playing field. Like if humanoids exist in another part of the galaxy, and by the way, they're aware of us. They call Earthers their Terran cousins. But in their universe, the daily threats are like aliens that have all sorts of powers and abilities. So how would they survive? They create the Guardsman program, but they didn't want to possibly entice people of not good moral fiber. And so you have to train rigorously. That's kind of the Shaolin monk part. Like, you know, you
Yeah.
have to be kind of in tune spiritually, mentally, physically to get these suits to operate effectively. And that way, you know, it's not just a simple flip of the switch and you've got superpowers.
Well, it's
So
also kind of a Star Trek aspect in a way too. You know, they were sent out to help discover and help protect other parts of the galaxy.
well, and like these guardsmen, like I said, they're, you know, in the midst of the story, there's a dozen factions, and some of them are dying out because there's this mysterious threat that's destroying them. And so the core government can't keep up with replenishing the forces. So they sort of have the local police force to kind of have like a ruse of maintaining order, law and order. But the outlying systems have kind of become Gotham City, you know, lawlessness,
yeah.
chaos and crime and stuff. And so my character still exists in that reality. And he also, because the guardsman sort of faction he looked up to were destroyed some time ago, and he felt let down by them. And so by the time he's in his teens compared to his early childhood years, he really wants nothing to do with them. He doesn't want to be a guardsman anymore. But like I said, when he discovers the suit and the ship, he will kind of be on his alternate version of the hero's journey. But and that's what the guardsmen were designed to do, is being, you know, like Starfleet. It's a, you know, peacekeeping armada, among other things, you know, to protect the systems and explore. But oh, by the way, like I said, the 11-year-old in me keeps coming out, so I apologize for the verbal diarrhea.
No, this is cool though. This is really great.
Very
we
cool.
actually have a friend of mine about a year, almost 10 years ago. He came up with the idea of doing a Black Alpha board game. And so we have discussed that recently. And the way that we would do it is it would be set in another corner of the story. And so we have the ship. It's kind of like the special ops version of the Guardsmen. And they're on the ship, this sort of stealth ship. And they're going deeper into the void to try and discover what the mysterious threat is that's killing off the Prime Guardsman faction. So that's going to be my Star Trek, because it's going to be about the ship with a small crew.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got all the archetypes there. They have color-coded uniforms. You know, there's an alien doctor that's the Mr. Spock. And him and I have talked about, you know, we've done concepts of that would be a board game that would tie into the main story. I try to always have connective tissue.
Very cool.
Or just a DLC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many red shirts would there be on the ship?
Oh, we have to have at least 2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no,
Because they got to take the first shot.
the funny thing is, I made it making a joke about that, but the archetypes are there. Like I said, I've got an alien that's supposed to be a tribute to Spock and Dr. Lazarus from Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And actually, we have the security officer is this big brute who also happens to be the chief medical officer. So we like the idea
So he
that
beats them up and heals them.
Yeah, exactly. He can rough them up, and then he's a healer, really, by nature.
Oh, that's great.
But same thing, like there has to be a number of kind of resources to get these off the ground, and some of that involves bringing in a team, and we haven't financially quite been there yet, but it's always percolating, But right now the focus is the comic with WTF, and then we figured, that's kind of the first version of getting, like I said, the story finally out to an audience after almost a full decade, and we've been getting a lot of great feedback from the people that got their copies, that got to read, and they're like, when's issue 2 coming out? So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Because we ended on a cliffhanger, and I always tell people the way, because I didn't want to do a continuing series. I wanted to do a mini series of, a continual line of miniseries, and each miniseries would be like its own book or movie.
Right.
So there would be a bit of a resolution, but then we'd leave enough open to possibly do a second miniseries. But it's like, the way things have gone, I'm like, let's just get that miniseries done. And really, that's, like I said, that'll be the big, huge milestone of completion. And if people want more, we'll worry about that bridge when we cross it. So
now, so that's going to be like, are they going to be like mini graphic novels or just big comic versions? I mean,
well, we're starting out with the individual issues, but we have talked about doing, obviously the trade paperback, which is basically, and some people have said, well, I won't read it until you get the trade out,
done.
And kind of in its graphic novel essence.
Right. Huh. Yeah. Okay. But, and then, so you'll have that out, and then, what now the movie is, when is it going to be completed? When is this going to step in?
Well, like I said, they start filming in the fall in September of 2022. I think it'll be filming for at least 3/4 of the month. And then there'll be post-production, and I mean, that usually can take a good several months to a year or so afterwards.
Wow. Okay.
Looking at 2023, end of 2023, give or take.
That sounds reasonable.
Dude. I mean, the more you're talking, the more I'm just like getting like, I need it now.
I'm definitely excited for it.
Nerding
it
out
great.
here, man. So you've got your miniseries coming out, and then what happens after that? What all's going to develop after that?
WTF and I have another book of mine, a character I created in the 90s called the Bondsman, and it was kind of inspired by like the image of 90s, like characters like Spawn, the Grifter from Wildcats. Nice. And we're going to do that as a one shot. And I created the character while I was working at Marvel in the 90s. And so we're going to do it as a love letter to the 90s. It's going to have those ridiculously large, like kind of, the Rob Liefeld style guns that I love that stuff.
Oh, nice.
And kind of a character that looks a little, certain characters are interesting to me because they look like the bad guy, but they actually turn out to be the hero. Even Batman to me is kind of on that spectrum. And so this Bondsman character is what I'm equating to as he's from another planet, and you don't ever see his face. He wears his helmet, and it's kind of he ends up befriending this African-American teen girl that, is kind of having a rough life, and they sort of find an unlikely bond. And I sort of equate it to it's kind of a girl in her monster story. I mean, it's not much different than like, John Connor and Schwarzenegger in T2. It's got a very 90s vibe to it. I don't know if you guys have ever seen The Crow. There's the girl Sarah there. Same thing, kind of this sort of that sort of becomes the heart amidst sort of the bit of this like darker sort of world that these characters try and find the light through some of that darkness. And so that's going to be next on the docket. In between, I think Black Elf issue 1 and 2. And then, like I said, I'm still in talks with Hollywood production companies. So I have another character in mind that probably has had the most interest from like streaming services, and he's called Damian Moon, Warlock for Hire, and it's basically James Bond meets Doctor Strange.
Okay. And that's one of the ones I wanted to talk to you about. One was the Bondsman. I was figuring we were going to get to that a little bit later. But now Bondsman, he's kind of one quick question, because he's kind of a meld of a lot of things that you've dealt with character-wise. You said he's got like kind of a Batman essence to him, but yet also Spawn, and there was a couple others I think that you kind of melded and created him in a style. What were the other two? I'm sorry.
Definitely would be, well, be a little bit of Punisher, a little bit of Grifter.
Yes.
Definitely
Okay,
Grifter
yeah.
and Spawn would be the top two. And by the way, I mean, the thing that we're going to do the graphic novel is you may never see his face. You might get a hint in shadow. I'm a sucker for those. I'm a sucker for those.
Oh,
those
yeah.
Boba Fett's, and even one of my Black Alpha bad guys, the guy that's covered from head to toe in armor, it kind of gives him like an otherworldly feel. And so I'm not one to push like, well, because I know that can be sometimes a letdown for the audience, where I want to sort of stretch that out as long as we can.
The mystique of it all.
The mystique
and
that
having
character.
that. Oh my God, that's awesome.
And through underneath his armor and everything, I want him to still, even though he's from another planet, I want his humanity to come through, like any of my characters, So, and I have, by the way, speaking of, because Drew, I don't think you're on my Facebook page, are you? Have you been?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And then Andy, either?
I just picked it up just now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be on there here in literally after the podcast. I will.
Okay.
I'm jumping on.
Because
sure.
the thing that you'll see is that that these characters that I'm all talking about, I did get action figures made of all of them too.
Yes.
Oh, did you?
I was.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So that's really
are
fun.
we able to purchase merchandise off your Facebook page?
Well, that's kind of the plan. That's what we're working towards.
Okay.
We're getting a store set up.
I got a decent collection going on. I would love to get some of your stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say this is a perfect time for you to plug your Facebook page, which is.
It's under Tom Rasch, Rasch. Rash sounds exactly like skin rash, so it's just spelt a little differently.
Just got a C in there.
And usually if you go to the, like I said, TOM and then RASCH, you'll see my cover photo, which is a picture of me saying Marvel artist and content creator. And it's got my 7 characters that I generally get in the public eye. And that's probably the majority where I'll honestly say I do most of my shilling, because I love the direct interaction of Facebook. It's a good way to connect with people and networking, kind of engaging your audience. And then, there's a Tom Rasch Instagram page. There's a Black Alpha Instagram page. There's a Bondsman Instagram page. We're trying to get some of the other characters up, like a social media presence, but it basically would be right now the Bondsman and Black Alpha. And like I said, and I do still heavily share the Salem Tusk news on there, because that's one thing that's been fun since I've been doing this for about a decade. The people have been following what I'm doing, got to be around when I announced that Black Alpha was going to be published in USA Today.
You're right.
The merchandise was going to be on The Big Bang Theory, and also the movie.
Which that's got to be huge. That had to be huge for you, dude.
Well, and it was, because there's a statue of Black Alpha in Raj's apartment that was in a bunch of episodes, and then I have a small 3D print of the Arma 7. It's right above a TIE fighter on the other shelf in Raj's apartment. So to see my ship with a Star Wars ship was incredibly exciting, as part of the set dressing and stuff.
Did they come and approach you for that, or did you say, hey,
a friend of mine actually, he got a connection with them first, and then he connected the both of us and signed an agreement where neither party had to pay anything. It's like they kind of both benefit. So there was a contract, and so basically they got to use it until it went off the air as like set dressings for the comic book shop set. Characters in their apartments. In fact, I shared that on Facebook. There's a couple of times where a big Black Alpha poster is right above the cash register. You see the camera continually zooming past it. We did have Black Alpha t-shirts, and they gave me the size of, what's his name? Jim Parsons that plays Sheldon, and Johnny Galecki but they never actually got worn on the show. And I think they ended up in the background in the t-shirt section on the shop. But,
well, hey.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and like I said, both of those happened. USA Today and Big Bang Theory happened with just in a couple of months of each other when I had those announcements on Facebook. So that's why, like I've said this recently too, I've been very grateful to the people that have been following me on this journey, because they could have checked out, because there's been a lot of lulls in the schedule. What it was called vaporware in the video game industry, which means you have an announcement and then year after year after year, and it's something, it doesn't finally come to fruition for a number of reasons. I didn't want my brand to become that, so I've been very careful. And so that's why the Salem Tusk movie and the comic moving forward has kind of been my two big things. And then trying to be open to the other opportunities. But like I said, I really had to kind of focus on one area and say, let's get this done. And then we'll go to the next step and get that done and then go to the next step. So
right. So now, is there at any point, I know you've teased this on your Facebook page and whatnot about the TRASCH or TRASCH universe. Are you going to combine all this and make just one solid page for that? Or are you going to still kind of keep the Black Alpha and the Salem Tusk and all these other things? Are you going to keep them all separate? Or are you going to just finally bring all this together into the TRASCH universe, which, God, I still love that name. It's awesome.
Well, thank you. Because I used to get a lot of criticisms about it. They're like, oh, people are going to get the wrong impression. It's trash art.
Dude. Oh my God.
It is fantastic.
Yeah. I will say this, and I just announced this on Facebook a few months back, because when people would ask me if I had a shared universe with my characters, I would always say no. I wanted them to kind of exist as their own entities. But then I started thinking about this, and I'm like, you know what? I actually could make all of them, as different as they are from each other, exist in a shared universe. But the way that I would do it is more the Easter egg style, where there wouldn't be like a blatant one crossing over. Right. There would be a little hint and call out that the audience could have fun and really dig deep for the Easter eggs to say, oh my God, this here is some reference to, you know what I mean? And that's kind of be sort of the slow unraveling plan, is to sort of have people figure out how we're going to mash up. Yeah, all these very different characters from each other. And I've been kind of doing a little construction and writing down a graph of how I'm going to approach that. But yeah, I decided, I'm like, I can do this and make it fun, but still have each character exist as their own individual brand.
Dude. And it could be like multi-dimensional. I mean, man, you got so many avenues you could go with it. I mean, I think that would be amazing, because again, it's all interconnected one way or another. And yeah, the beauty of it is you see that little Easter egg and you're like, oh, wait, what's that? And then you get involvement into the whole other aspect of the universe. And it's great. I really think that's a huge, awesome
I'll share this with you guys. And I didn't share it a lot previously, but
yes.
When I talked about Black Alpha for the last several years, I was saying that, what sets it apart from, say, Green Lantern, but also what separates it from Star Wars. In Star Wars, that it's in a galaxy far, far away. They don't ever talk about Earth. It's never mentioned. That's cool. Right, I'm fine with that. With Green Lantern, Earth is a big, that's where Hal Jordan is from. I decided I wanted my IP to meet in the middle, and more in a way inspired by Battlestar Galactica, where obviously Earth was the 13th lost tribe. And so they talk about Earth. And so in my story, there's a bit of a call out. There's going to be a line in one of the stories where one of the other guardsman character is actually, he's kind of a fanboy of Earth. He's had ancestors that have visited here. And so he very much is into superhero mythology. And so there'll be a couple of throwaway lines where they'll be talking about the sun god from a distant star. Obviously, we know who that is.
Right.
Superman. Yeah. Or they talk about the aristocratic creature of the night. You know what I mean? And so there'll be a call out that these superhero stories have literally traveled across the stars to their culture,
and almost
taken on kind of a mythical element.
Wow, kind of like we have Thor and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so that's why, and there'll be even more of a kind of a deep dive into the mythology, that one of the characters was so inspired by the mythology of the Terran cousins that he really takes his role as a guardsman to that level. Like, he really relishes being a guardsman, the previous pilot actually, and really kind of based his motif on the superhero stories that he's heard as legends as a young boy. Those are kind of the little Easter eggs that I'm going to sort of sprinkle throughout.
That was very cool.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah. Those are the references that I love.
I'm loving this stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, like I said, ever since we first talked a while back, Tom, I think, what was that, back in December, I think?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And we kind of geeked out on the phone, just talking about stuff that, we grew up on and in our past. And then I started diving in. And one of my things is I try not to dive too deep on a guest, because then I get over knowledgeable and I sound like an idiot, which I'm pretty good at anyway.
No.
so I've been lightly skimming. It's very hard because like I said, I started really getting into studying the Black Alpha character because of the aspects of the Iron Man and all these different intriguing, points of him. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I started getting into Salem Tusk, and then I start, and I'm like, okay, I got to stop. So now I can really start getting into it. And I've been following you on Facebook, and I've been reading all the stuff that you've been talking about. I've been watching you play with the models, and I was just like, hi, me one. And so this is just, oh my God, dude. I mean, seriously, we could still go another 2 hours. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I am, God, we got to, yeah. Is there any way especially after you guys get the movie going, would you be able to come back and talk with us some more about this, dude? I mean, because seriously, and especially Andy is super even deeper into comics.
I don't know if you can see the Metropolis poster in the background.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I've been saying this especially because, like I said, I've been a guest on about a dozen podcasts over the last month or two. I love doing these. I've loved doing them for like a decade now. I mean, I feel like I'm with my tribe. I get to meet new friends, make new friends, and I also, a part of what I know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm here to kind of promote what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, we're all part of that same fun club, geeking out. I mean, and sometimes I've even brought this up to some of the previous hosts of the show. I said, I'm one of those guys that even if you had like a certain show and I can fit it in my schedule and you just want to talk about nerd stuff that's not even related to my characters or anything, I love doing that kind of stuff too. I like to give a lengthy sort of thesis about Star Wars and the direction that it
don't start the Star Wars. Don't look at Andy's going to explode.
Real quick.
We going to midnight?
I forgot to mention that. So my artwork appears in a documentary that came out several years ago called The People versus George, which was about George Lucas. For the longest time, you could watch it on Netflix. One of my drawings made it in the movie. And I ended up being interviewed for almost 2 hours for that documentary.
Oh, wow.
And I think because I went way longer, my cut did not make it into the movie. But I monologued almost without any interruption for 2 hours about Star Wars. In fact, one of my good friends who loves podcasts, he said he's into history and he listened to one about Napoleon a decade ago. And the podcast was only supposed to last half an hour, but this guy that's in Napoleon, it lasted 3 hours. And so he told my other buddy, Mike, he goes, Tom is never, ever, ever allowed to have a podcast about Star Wars because I said he'll be sitting there for 8 hours.
Oh, that's great.
But I mean, that's not just, Star Trek, like I've got so many passionate appreciation for, but also just, what it represents all of us culturally and my own, sometimes controversial theories, all that stuff. And it's fun.
Oh, yeah. We got to have you back on, and we don't even have to talk about your stuff if you want. We can Star Trek and Star Wars explode.
I host another podcast that mainly deals with these reviews. So we just did a Book of Boba Fett review.
Nice.
Our co-host does the Marvel Minute, where he gives us all the Marvel news of what's going on in the movies and comics and everything. So
and then Andy does the DC.
Well,
no, I actually do streaming service selection of the week. So basically anything. And I did a big drop on Invincible. And we just did a Vox Machina review, which I'm not sure if you know this, but is basically a D&D group of voice actors that recorded their stuff for years and years. And they crowdfunded an animated series. It was only supposed to get, they set a goal for 6 episodes and it burst their bubble by like 800%. So they just dropped a 12 episode season on Amazon Prime, and
wow.
it's all their voices going over the campaign that they did with D&D, and it's just.
I have heard of it. I didn't know all the details, but I will say this one other thing as I'm kind of our conversation is reminding me of stuff. As being a fan of podcasts, there was a period, and I don't know if I'll ever actually have time to do it anywhere in the near future, but. I thought about doing my own podcast, and I was trying to figure out what the format would be. I'm like, would I have guests on half the time? Would I also talk about what I'm doing? Would I also give my reviews? And I kind of wanted to sort of be this sort of anything goes sort of format, but I don't see myself doing that anytime in the near future. So if I can come on somebody else's podcast to jump in on reviews or toys, anything, it doesn't matter. I would love to do something like that.
Come,
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yeah.
Come,
Yeah.
join the dark side.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's why I said I'm all about that. But yeah, I guess in regards to both, I would love to come on the show again to talk about like when Salem Tusk or
That'd be
moving
great.
farther along and
Hey.
sharing other news, but also nerding out in general.
Tom,
Now,
you now
are
have
we-
a link to the show,
Mhm.
and we're on every Tuesday. I know it's probably sometimes a little early for you, but you're welcome anytime you're on a Tuesday. You want to jump in? You have an open invitation. Because, dude, we will just sit here and geek and have fun, dude.
For
Yeah.
sure. And I will say one final kind of plug. The most important one is that since I'm a new dad, I mean, I had a lot of brain children that have been around for decades, but obviously my greatest and most cherished co-creation is my daughter.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I love that her mom and we indoctrinated her into nerddom. Trish, when Trish was pregnant, she watched every version of Star Trek the whole 9 months. And the day that she was born in the hospital, we had all these beanies made for her. We had a Spock one made. She had a Black Alpha one.
Yes.
Princess Leia.
Love it.
And so she can't help it. And it's been I used to get choked up about this. She doesn't, since she's 3, she hasn't quite grasped what daddy does in a way.
Right. Oh, sure.
But she'll see my pictures of my characters on my Facebook cover image, and she'll say superheroes. And then she'll point to my one character, Evelyn 11, and say, I want to be her for Halloween. So she doesn't realize how much that means to me that,
awesome.
Awesome,
man.
That's one thing that hopefully I can have her be proud of, I guess, when she gets older, is that, and by the way, the other thing that people have asked, I do have 3 different stories that are all inspired by her, 3 different versions.
Oh, that's incredible.
That will be a tribute to her as she gets older, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Beautiful.
And one final thing is her name is Aria, like I may have mentioned previously. And I had one of my screenwriter friends give me a hard time because he's like, boy, you really love the letter A, don't you? The ship is called the Aramis. It's Black Alpha. He's from the Arctura star system. And, and Otto is his synthetic acolyte. And the bad guy's name is Argos. And so I've had to work on that because when I do like a treatment for like a screenplay or something, the producer will come back and say, this is really cool, but some of the characters are going to have, I can't tell who is who. They all start with the same letter, and I think that's taking the Stanley alliterative or whatever that term is, like Peter Parker, Bruce Banner.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the nth degree. So of course I'm going, of course my daughter's first name would begin with an A, subconsciously. So
Yeah. No,
Oh,
I
my
honestly, that's the best thing that we can do is that if something that we love and we have passion for, that we can just expose them to it and realize, so my son was due on April 28th. He was a week late and was born on May the 4th. And then
Fourth be with you.
Yeah, no, and then I got him all the slew of those DC learner books, and he is a savant of DC characters now. And so even had a weird crush on Harley Quinn for a while, but we got past it. Everything's okay now. but
who hasn't had a weird
but
crush
no,
on Harley
like it
Quinn?
was
Everybody has a small crush on her from time to time.
Oh yeah,
right. But no, like some of his first vocabulary was mommy, daddy, Batman, Superman, and then my favorite was instead of stormtrooper, he said stormtrooper.
Well, my daughter said Storm Pooper, so it was Storm Pooper for about a year.
Now
I do apologize. So I have been remiss in because I did not have my laptop here plugged in. I'm getting the little notification on the battery bar that I probably should wrap this up.
Oh, yeah.
So
No
once
worries.
again, like I said, the time got away from me. I've been having too much fun talking. So
It's been really good.
And that's the
this is
beauty of
great,
this
Tom.
show. And we love people who go, oh, I'm only good for a half hour, and then 2.5 hours later, they're like, oh, I got to get going. Yeah.
You can tell I'm in my elephant. Now, real quick before I sign off here. So I saw Corey Hall was posting on the side, and then at the top one, he goes, dude looks horrifying. And so I'm going, is he talking about one of us, or is he talking about Jason Momoa?
It was probably Momoa. It was probably the Momoa comment.
I was going to say, that's more, Momoa thing. He's, Corey does a podcast as well, and has jumped in with us from time to time. He's one of our good friends.
Yeah, he was hilarious because I'm reading the comments, and he's like, it's Star Trek. It's Star Trek, or And then he's like, when I brought up the Duck Dynasty, he's like, no shame, the Robinsons are lovely people. So I had a hard time not giggling looking at that stuff at the side. But anyway, so on my end, before the computer dies here, I probably should sign off now. But so Drew and Andy, you said, did you guys reach out to me on Facebook or send a friend request?
I'm going to directly after I get off of here.
Okay, cool.
So,
okay.
By the way, Drew, I do apologize. I did monopolize a lot of the conversation. I was going to try and not do that, so I'm sorry.
I enjoyed every second you were talking. I am like,
we should bring Drew back.
For sure.
I am going to take it. I looked at Chris told me a little bit before the podcast about the stuff you did. Like, I'm a nerd in comics. I love comics. I love DC, Marvel. I am going to go on a deep dive in your stuff after this. I still got another day or two of vacation.
You've gained major fans at this point.
Your stuff's gonna suck up my time in the next couple days. So,
real quick, we like to do what we call random questions of insanity. Can you just answer a couple?
Let's give him one
real quick.
Let's give him one good one.
Okay. First off, what is your favorite James Bond movie?
Casino Royale.
Oh, okay. Newer Bond.
The Daniel Craig, when it kind of sort of rebooted with him.
Right. I got you. Okay. And then what's your favorite sandwich that you make?
That I make?
Yes.
Yeah.
Peanut butter banana.
Oh my God. You put mayonnaise on it.
Put what?
Mayonnaise?
I have done that before. Yes. That's a classic from my grandma.
All of you. Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, everybody was telling me how gross that is. My daughters freak out when I make it. I'm like, this is the most delicious thing
I'm going to tell you how gross that is right now.
Nope. It's awesome. And Tom Rasch verifies it. So,
yeah.
Okay. And then, hold on. I'm trying to find my random questions page here. All right.
Well, I know this is an impossible question to answer, but do you have a favorite superhero movie? Like one that has just sort of stood the test of time with you?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, I grew up. I mean, Christopher Reeve Superman was kind of the first out of the gate. I mean, that's but there's so much. There's so much to love and so little time, and I really can't narrow most things down to one. I mean, I feel the same. I say movies of all time that I still consider the original Star Wars my favorite film of all time. Not just favorite Star Wars movie, but favorite movie since I was in grade school.
Well, how about instead of movies, how about an actual favorite Marvel or DC character, villain, or superhero?
Marvel for me, it was Wolverine. Once I started reading the X-Men, he became, it was Spider-Man until Wolverine came along. And then like DC would still probably have to be Batman.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm very excited about the Twilight Batman movie. So
I heard it was pretty good.
Yeah.
The reviews, they say it's the best iteration of Batman to hit the screen ever right now.
Oh, I think it's going to be fantastic. And I same thing. I never once judged Pattinson, like everyone's making fun. I'm like, I want to see what the actor brings to the character. And I honestly, he looks amazing in that cowl.
Gotta give him a chance.
He cuts a really striking silhouette. And so, and to see the stuff I've seen in the trailers, I think, and what we're going to see it on Thursday night. So I'm super pumped. That's one thing too. Movies, I get just as excited as I did as a little kid. I'm just waiting all day and all that stuff. So
my wife still doesn't get the fact that I've got to go see the movie in the movie theater.
Oh yeah,
it'll be out on video soon. No, you don't understand.
I don't know about you guys, but to me, the movie house is kind of the equivalent of a congregational moment in church. It's kind of a connection thing, and it's your spirit is being lifted up. And I think that it's just kind of this shared thing, this shared human experience, and like the fact that you're in this big box with numerous strangers, and you're all
for the same
riding.
You are,
you're riding on the shoulders of these characters to experience the human condition and laugh and cry and be excited. I went to Spider-Man No Way Home when it opened.
Spider-Man, definitely.
Perfect example of like the audience was gasping and clapping and losing their mind when the spoiler cameos happened. And it reminded me of being a kid again. I'm like, this is why I love coming to the movie theater, to watch all these people together, just really get into that 2 hours of another story. So I did get the thing that says your battery's running low. It's time to plug in your PC.
All good.
So I better sign out before I can't sign off. So Well, thank you very much, guys. Great to meet
Thank you, Tom.
everybody.
Thank you so much.
you.
We'll
Man.
look forward to
Good
having you.
meeting
We're
you,
going to
man.
put
It
some
was very
plugs for
nice
you on
meeting you.
our website. Okay.
By the way, is this available live now, or do you have like a link that you can share
Well,
later, kind of thing?
Yeah,
It's
we'll have a
live
link that you can
now,
share
and
later.
then we have
Okay.
links, and it'll be audio
I'll
podcast.
I'll
here
message
soon.
you the link.
Awesome, cool. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Everybody
All
have a
right.
great evening.
Thank you,
You too,
brother.
bud.
Appreciate
Good meeting
you.
you.
We'll
Have a
talk
good
to you
night.
soon, my
You too.
man. Thank you so much. All right, Tom Rasch, ladies and gentlemen. Tom Rasch. Oh, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
we seriously.
That was fun.
We could have gone till midnight. You were right, Drew.
Easily.
Like we totally
Oh,
could have gone.
easily.
Yeah.
Dude,
Easily.
we
Yeah.
so could have gone forever. Yeah.
I was getting soaked in. I was just sitting there. Everything he was saying, I was.
Yeah.
It was
you
great.
know,
dude,
I-
Great.
it was so funny because, like I said, we've talked a couple times just real quick. He's like, so how long do you think it'll be? Da, 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 da. And I'm like, dude, it can go one way or the other. And he's like, okay, what, we'll just see how it goes and stuff. And again, it's like I said, dude, you can go a half hour, but the people usually say I'm only good for this long. Well, look, we've almost gone 2 hours. So
yeah, well, you know what? And I get overly concerned too with people's time, and especially, but obviously he's got such a passion about what he does, but also such a passion about his properties,
right.
and where it's going and what he's doing and his road to get there.
Dude, and the depth that he's gone to create these characters and their universes, and again, it's not just a story; it's a whole world. Seriously, that he's so deeply involved.
Pretty much like another Marvel or DC universe he's making right now.
Yeah,
right.
And
It's-
that's
it's
why I
beautiful.
love the Trash
That's
Universe.
beautiful.
I
Yes.
think that's awesome. That's why I kept telling him, I'm like, dude, you have to keep going with this. You have to make that happen. And I think he, like you said, he's got the idea. He's gonna interconnect this one way or another. I can just see it happening. So I'm not worried about that. I'm just super excited for it, and I'm super excited for him. I'm so stoked we got him on, dude. And
no, that was that interview did not like it totally lived up to the hype, and we've been hyping it up quite a bit,
Yeah.
And so I was a little worried that it might not necessarily get sort of reach that very cool pinnacle, but no, I looked at, I'm like, oh yeah, 6 o'clock, damn.
Yeah. No, I just got a text from my wife. She's like, it's 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
You got to be at work in a few hours.
Yeah,
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
So, well, listen, hey, Drew, I guess I'm assuming you're sold on it, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, listen, Drew, since you were on here, let's ask you a couple random questions of
Let's do it.
insanity.
There we go.
All right. What is your favorite James Bond movie?
GoldenEye.
Oh, all
GoldenEye.
right.
Yep.
Pierce Brosnan.
Famke Janssen.
Yep. Didn't have nothing to do with the video game. Nothing to do with the video game.
Let's see. What is your favorite lunch sandwich that you make?
Let's see. Ham and cheese, pepper jack cheese, banana peppers, jalapenos, mayonnaise, habanero, mustard.
Oh,
Nice.
man.
But there's a spicy meatball.
That's a
Spicy
colon blow right there.
It's a
man.
Pia
That's-
Mario.
Damn. All right, dude. Let's see. And okay. Should I ask him the Star Wars one?
I hate that question. Please don't.
Yeah, let's not do Star Wars.
Okay, fine. All right. Which superpower would you not want? Let's just do that one.
Superpower would I not want? Are we going off the list at the beginning of the podcast?
No.
Or,
No. This
You
is
just-
the
any
Marvel
superpower
NBC
that you-
approved
Actual superpower.
superpowers. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Superman laser beams out of his eyes
Oh, yeah, because you could
because
just be like,
I am
hey, by the way-
blind as a bat. I would miss and I would mess something up very badly.
small forest fire happens
No,
because
I
Drew
would
decided to look at it.
tear some stuff up I didn't mean to hit.
And that's why I would never ever want to own a real lightsaber, because I would kill myself within 5 minutes of owning it.
I'm losing a leg in the first 5 minutes for sure.
Slashes everywhere.
Right? Yeah.
Walls are falling apart. What happened? Oh, Andy was trying to use the lightsaber again.
Lightsaber got delivered today. Yeah. We're gonna need to take out a loan to fix the house.
I tried cooking eggs with a lightsaber, and I cut off my leg.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on.
No, yeah,
Hold on here.
bring Matt in.
I'm
No, he was-
trying.
He was
It's-
talking
it's not
about
happening.
the part of did you watch Book of Boba Fett? Are you a Star Wars guy?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Guy, I hate to break this to you guys.
No,
I'm really not. I'm really not.
And that's-
I've
No, he's not.
yeah, I'm not. I'm
no,
sorry.
and that's okay. Drew, no, you don't have to. No, I mean, to each their own. I totally get it. How old are you, Drew? If you don't mind my asking?
32.
Okay, all right, and that totally makes sense.
The thing
he's
is,
the babe of the group right now.
the thing is, I've never given it a try either. So I can't say I'm not a Star Wars fan.
I don't know why.
I just haven't given it a try.
No, and that's nothing
Matt, it
wrong.
won't
See,
let me pull you in.
I was exposed to it very, very early, so it holds a special part to me. I know that some people, when they try to get into it later in age, it doesn't sort of hold the same magic for them that it did
Yes.
for me, you know? So I totally get it. It was just it's just part of
There's a lot of stuff. It's kind of like 'cause I'm a huge Marvel fan,
yeah.
but that would be like me not watching Marvel and then being introduced to it right now.
There's Matt.
so much stuff to watch. I have no idea
Right.
where to even start. You know, that's
Yeah.
kind of how it is with Star Wars.
Right. No, and I totally get it. I
Yes.
totally get it. Yeah. So but no, yeah, no, Matt was referencing there's a part in the new series where one of the guys cuts himself with a lightsaber, and it's
Yes.
and it would totally happen.
Well, and when we were watching it and that happens, you're just like, finally, someone
know,
hurts
yes.
himself with a lightsaber.
Somebody did.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly like what you were saying, Andy. Is like you give me one of those, and I'd be like in the first Star Wars movie, the original one, when Luke's like looking at it like this, like I'd be
I
like,
know, right?
zap,
Yeah.
and it was a great 20-minute short film we just saw.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. All right. Well, hey guys. Well, and yeah. Hey, welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you.
Hi, Matt.
I'll take the
and I
yes,
like
we're
the
nerds thing down
spam,
because it's kind of an overstatement at this point.
Spam links in our YouTube comments.
Yeah, I
We
was
finally-
seeing that.
yeah,
That's
we
why I
finally
just
made
pulled
it.
it down. Yeah, I know. We're number one. We're number
Yeah.
one.
Hey, we're getting spammed. All right. Good job, guys.
Oh, and by the way, we were number 17 for the week for our last show. So
Nice.
thank you,
Nice.
Good
Good job, guys.
Pods,
Good
by
job,
the
guys.
way. I'm sorry.
Well, I said good job. Good job.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
thank you, Travis Dunn, for being a great interview as well.
Oh yeah. Travis was
Yeah.
awesome. He was so much fun.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of bummed out the Marilyn Monroe doll didn't work, but oh well.
That's true.
Yeah, I need that. I need to know where you got that, and I want it.
So this was on Think Geek when Think Geek was a thing. But
okay.
I think now you can still buy it at like GameStop and stuff like that.
Oh, maybe
So, yeah.
Amazon.
Probably. Yeah.
Amazon.
I'm gonna
Apparently,
look it up.
Amazon buys everything.
But yeah,
From what I hear.
no, it came in like the perfect little like foam case where you could keep it like perfect and pristine. And I kept
Right.
it in the case for like 3 years. So my wife has said, "Are you ever going to use it?" Like, it's too beautiful to use. I mean, come on, look at it. It's
No, you
pretty.
don't use it for pizza. You
It's
put it
so
up on
pretty.
the wall and look at it.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. I'm good.
Now it's got
All right.
fingerprints all over it.
I know.
Scratches. It's not worth anything.
You took it out of the
my
box. You took it out of the box.
And
Come
so, and the
on.
funny thing is that I texted my wife when Tom started talking about Star Trek. I'm like, weird question. Can you bring the pizza cutter into the office?
She's like, "What's going on?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing on the show now?"
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, Drew, so it lived up to your expectations, I'm assuming.
Hey, I had a fantastic time, man. This was
Yep.
fantastic.
So
For
we
being
will.
my first podcast ever being on, I had a great time. Yeah, everybody was good. Everybody was good. Everybody was
Yeah.
great. Yes, I loved it, man.
Awesome, dude. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I will talk to him about getting you your signed artwork. And I'll probably have it sent to me, and then I'll send it out to you.
That'd be great, dude. That'd be great.
So we'll get it that way, and it'll all be good. Drew, you were awesome guest host. I appreciate you very much for taking
real
the time.
quick, could I put a plug
Thank
in
you,
real
Drew.
quick?
Please plug it.
Please.
Okay,
plug away.
real quick. It's not me. It's one of my buddies, Kenny Slaughter, owner of A Games. If you want any vintage games, vintage
and you're
toys,
in the Kansas City area.
in the Kansas City area, Independence, close to Kansas City, A Game, vintage toys, vintage games, everything you want, vintage comics. Go there.
Awesome.
Kenny Slaughter is the owner. He's got everything there that you need. Go check him out.
Well, we will plug him, and I'm going to talk to you about that. Maybe we'll talk to him about maybe a little sponsorship. And
Hey, yes,
Sounds like someone
yes.
needs a weekly plug.
Yeah. We can
yeah.
give him, one of these little fancy, like this.
Hey,
See?
there we go. There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he's
what I'm talking about.
Hey, and another thing too. If you are in the Kansas City area, he just opened right next door a gaming cafe.
Oh,
He's getting yes, he is getting he's getting tournaments. He's trying to bring the old school gaming back. He's got tournaments set up with all the old systems, and he's building next door. That's my buddy
Awesome.
Kenny
Beautiful.
Slaughter. He is he's trying to bring the old school gaming back. He's doing it big right now. So just giving a shout out to
That's
him,
cool.
plug in for him.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Right
There.
on.
Well,
Yeah.
Drew, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on, and you are
Yes.
too sexy for this show, my friend.
Thank you.
Because
Thank you guys
just
so
because
much.
it's still on my soundboard, and we appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. You have a
Thank you,
wonderful,
Drew.
wonderful evening, and we will talk to you very shortly.
Thank
sir.
you guys. Y'all have a good night.
You
All
too.
right, you
Take
too.
care,
Take
Drew.
care of yourself, brother. All right, he was a lot of fun. I loved Drew.
He was.
All right, guys. Well, yeah, we've done it again. 2 hours and 1 minute.
Boom.
Yes.
And yeah, dude. And Tom Rasch wants to come back on the show. And
I
he
know,
said
yeah,
we
we
sounded
didn't-
professional and slick. Noted, and putting it in quotes, and I'm putting it on the web.
Is
We
it- yeah,
gotta
this
put
is a
that
top-
on the webpage.
A Tom,
That's all.
Rush.
The quote is just professional and slick. Tom Rasch.
Tom Rasch.
Like nothing about the content, just
No. Yeah.
But we truly
Oh,
sound
my.
polished and professional. So, God, that was great, dude. I swear to God, we really could have gone till midnight with him. And
No,
I'm not
absolutely.
even tired. I'm so psyched up on it right now. It's, and I've got to
I
be
mean,
up for
just-
work in a few hours.
Just
so.
just think if he actually plugged in his laptop.
Oh my God, dude, we seriously, yeah. So we will definitely get him back on. I'm gonna hit him up about that. So next week, what do we get? Oh yeah, next week we are waiting to hear back, but we were supposed to have back on Mr. Mark Cashman because he's got his other book coming out about voiceover work, which is, I mean, I've been reading through his first one. It's awesome. If you are ever doing any kind of voiceover work or anything, you got to get it. VO tips and tricks. It is such a great book. So many just simple things that you don't even think about. I mean, I've learned a lot, but there was some great things in there that I had forgotten about, and I was like, oh yeah, that's good. So yeah, we got to make sure. I'm still like trying to lock him down, but hopefully we will have him on. Otherwise, it's just gonna be us or something. We'll figure it out. Maybe we'll get Tom Rasch back on.
There you
And
go.
we'll just have him hang out with us again. But anyway, okay. And we also want to say thank you to Consolidated Skateboards, our official and unofficial sponsor. And then you know who we're going to say next. Neil Getzlow in his book Unmasked.
Heyo.
He's actually starting or has started his own podcast, dealing with all these kind of addictions and stuff like that. So check that out. I think it's just called Unmasked as well. Neil Getzlow, check him out on the old interweb and all that. In the meantime, also Consolidated Skateboards. Who am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, our good friends, the Dead Campers. They actually
Always.
just did a show, And they've released a couple other new songs, so make sure you check them out on Spotify. And until next week, Andy's got Rum and Regrets coming up.
Yeah, we released last week with the interview of Scott, who is the extra on episode 2 of Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
Nice.
Very, very cool. So his sister-in-law directed that episode, and it was just, he was treated basically like a god on set, and they called him stepbrother, which was funny. They even gave him some interaction with Jennifer Beals as Madame Garza, and that was just, it was a very, very fun interview to do with Scott, my old coworker. So that is live on our site right now.
Awesome. All right, so make sure you check that out. Rum and Regrets. Maddie, you got all sorts of photos going out. I love it. I love watching the photos of the kitties too. So
man.
That's all
make
I
sure
do
you
now is
check
take
out
pictures of my cats.
check out Maddie's
my
photos on Instagram, and it's just Matt Mattes photos on Instagram, all one word. You can't miss it. So thank you so much, Matt, for your wonderful direction and keeping us under somewhat kind of control. But you
It
know,
was easy.
it's that time where
we
we
had
say
such a great person to interview. Wow, he was. I want to know more about the Guardians guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm just that just. The more he talked, the more I was like, "Well, where can I watch this?"
Well, like I said, dude, I was
watch it all.
doing little background skimming on him, and like I just find myself going down a rabbit hole and just like, oh my god, oh that's so cool, oh my god, what? Oh, so yeah, very, very cool. Make sure you check him out on Facebook, Tom Rasch, Rasch.
He's already messaging me, which is cool.
Is he really? Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. All right, well,
We'll give
Maddie,
him the link
thank
to
you
the
so
show,
much.
and
I will.
Yes, and we will have links on the website connecting to his page and all his paraphernalia and good fun. So we've got that going on, right, Mr. Indy?
That's correct. Yes.
sure.
Why do I even question it? Why do I even question it?
You know, really, come on. It's me. It's me.
That's true. It's not me. It's you. Yeah. So, all right, Matthew, thank you so much. We will see you again next week, my friend. We appreciate you. And Andrew, again, thank you so much for all your excellent work. I appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah.
And we will do this again next week. One way or another, we're doing it next week. What do you say?
That's right. Let's do it.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. And as for the rest of us, it is I, Christian Random, saying farewell. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. And if you're on Good Pods, make sure you give us a good plug on there, because they are very good to us, and we like to be very good to them, just like you should be good to everyone around you. All right? Take care of each other, kids. We're all we got out there. Till next week. Peace.